how to spot the signs of a mass killer. A Missouri professor who used to work for the FBI studies how to prevent these tragedies. He says too many people don't know what to look for. Eric Feldman continues our coverage tonight.
As chaos rained down yet again, this time in El Paso and Dayton. A former FBI agent tells us something he's noticed.
And that's what everyone focuses is, you have the shooting and everybody swarms in and, they take out the guy, all these tactics and procedures and stuff and triage they do on the victims and, getting down to the bottom of it, investigating it. But here's the problem, it's already happened. You already got a whole bunch of people dead.
Gregory Vecchi used to be the head of the behavioral science unit at the FBI, figuring out why criminals do what they do. He says not enough people can recognize the signs of a mass killer.
Vecchi says there's a pathway to violence. He took us down that path. There's the trigger to anger, usually that's grievance. Vecchi says someone who feels he or she has been wronged. That could be about bullying at school, getting fired from a job. It could be toward an entire group of people, a hate crime. Vecchi says there are then likely indicators something is not right, that someone may be planning violence. That means knowing the baseline, how someone normally acts, and then seeing a radical change. It could be what someone's watching, posting on social media, what they're reading, where they're going. If that concerns you, then there's the preparation. Vecchi ran through those if someone could be thinking about a mass shooting.
You got to get ammo, you got to get the gun, you got to do training, right? He's asking people to go shooting. He's asking people to then borrow a gun, whatever. He goes out and buys a gun. He's never bought a gun before.
If the red flags add up, then Vecchi says it's time to react. And he says many of these killers don't veer from that pathway of violence.
Now, Vecchi says he goes to schools and businesses to help people better understand the signs you heard about and much more. He also says it's up to police departments to have strong community policing so people feel more comfortable coming forward about possible threats.
So where do we go from here?